Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release. This time we've got ourselves the 1/35th scale Utahceratops, and this is a beauty of a ceratopsian release. You can see the image here on the front portraying both different color variants. You can also see the species name and of course the scale, as well as the Haolonggood logo down here. Again, pretty much your standard when it comes to the Haolonggood releases and their packaging. And then up here on the top you can basically see a nice little checklist of some of the other ceratopsians that are out from Haolonggood, which all of them are incredible. So I'm really excited to pop this one open and check it out, so let's do that right now. So here are our Utahceratops, and let's place them down here and then readjust the camera. And as you can see, they are both gorgeous, just like I expected them to be. Maybe I could reposition the lights a little better. There we go, give you a better look at them, but definitely two really nice looking ceratopsians. And at this rate, you know, Haolonggood will have completely conquered the prehistoric figure world when it comes to releases. It's unreal how many figures they pump out and how many different species just in their line alone. You know, the sheer amount of ceratopsians they already have released, with more on the way. It's so crazy impressive, but these are easily two of the nicest Utahceratops I have ever seen. So let's jump to a closer look and we'll check them out a little bit more thoroughly from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the brown variant, you can see it looks really nice when it comes to the skin texture. There's quite a bit of variation, like you can see finer scales and skin texture as you move down toward the mouth and toward the nostrils, but as you lead up further into the head, you start to pick up much larger scales, much more impressive scales. Then they start to kind of decrease in size a little bit as you lead up into the frill, and I think that also looks really nice, with larger scales kind of leading up in certain areas through the course of the frill. And of course, when it comes to a Haolonggood release, the paintwork is so fantastic on these. You can see so much variation of color, lots of different shades of browns as well as lighter tones, like you've got some tans down here. I can even see a nice dark wash that has been applied to really amp up the realism of the figures. Leading out into the beak, you can even see quite a bit of variation here, like you start out with a really dark brown, then you get a lighter brown, and then you have a really light tip, kind of like a yellowish brown for the tip of the beak. So much paintwork goes into these Haolonggood releases, which is one of the many reasons why I feel like Haolonggood is honestly on top of the prehistoric collectible world. We can see the insides of the nostrils, also have a nice satin shine, nice gloss coat, which is another dose of realism that you don't often see on dinosaur models that I love. We can also see it's painted in there, and there's a little bit of a different shade of color kind of around the nostrils. Really tiny details like that always impress me. As you lead up, you can see the horns sculpted really nicely, also painted again with variation of color, leading in a nice light tip. You can see the eyes are painted with a yellow, given a black pupil, perfectly painted, and they have a gloss coat there to help, give them that realistic eye shine. And leading up from this area, you can see again all sorts of variation of color, even like some slight greenish tones right there as you lead up into the frill. And then as you lead up into the center of the frill, we can see tons of color here, as we've got reds, yellows, blues, and of course variations of browns, giving us a really cool pattern up here in the frill, definitely helping to highlight the beauty of this ceratopsian. And we can see the horns all around the frill are also really nicely painted again, nicely sculpted as well. You can see all sorts of like cracks and crevices, really fine detail within those horns, but you can see they as well are painted nicely with variations of browns. They even appear to have maybe a dark wash applied to them to help add even more realism. And again, this side of the head also looks gorgeous. As we move back into the neck, you can see kind of like some tensing here to the neck of the dinosaur. It does have its head turned ever so slightly toward its right, and you can really see the tensing right there, making it almost look like it's in kind of a confrontational pose, especially with the head down, almost making it look like it's kind of threatening another dinosaur, or maybe another ceratopsian, maybe a predator, I'm not too sure. As you lead down into the throat, you can see some really nice skin wrinkles and folds, as well as the skin stretching right here in the throat. You can even see like some purplish tones showing up right there in the front of the front leg. Extremely impressive scale detail on this one that you can see as you move through the course of the body. We also have some lighter tones here, all sorts of kind of striping of various browns, as well as the lighter tone, kind of like a light yellowish tone moving through that area. And you can see more of that purple up here on the back of the neck of the dinosaur with a nice brown striping, almost looking like it has almost like a slight metallic tone to it, which is intriguing, something I definitely didn't pick up on when it comes to the original prototype images. But you can see some kind of osteoderms following along the spinal column, as well as rows of osteoderms following along the side of the dinosaur. As you lead down into the front leg, we can see some wrinkling right here as the leg is kind of pushing into the stomach. We transition to a darker variation of brown as we lead down into the foot. The nails are painted with a nice black tone. You can see the toes look really good. I love the bending of the toes as that foot is picking up off of the ground, or maybe it's kicking up dirt. Actually kind of looks like that. Maybe it is in fact putting on some form of a defensive display. We can see the elbow back there. Again, as we lead back into the rear leg, you can make out the hip bone up here at the top, and again, all sorts of variations of browns. And although there doesn't appear to be a super obvious dark wash like down here, you really notice that there isn't much of a dark wash. Some areas do feature that wash. We saw it in the face, and you can see it up here in the back of the dinosaur as well. I would have liked to have seen it everywhere on the figure, but still looks pretty good when it comes to the way it's been applied in the areas that you do see it. More of that purplish tone moving down here, kind of following along the front of the thigh. You've got the muscle definition shining quite nicely. All sorts of wrinkling and folding and stretching of the skin as you see that leg kind of pulling forward, stretching it off of the tail. And then as we lead down through the course of the front leg, we've got the nice big bulging muscular calf muscle. Again, almost like a striping effect with the darker browns as you move down into that rear foot. We've got the toes again sculpted nicely. The ankle, you've got creasing and everything going on down there, as well as the nails again painted with a nice glossy black. And then we lead up into the tail. We have a nice curve to the tail as you lead out, kind of an elegant curve. Leading along the underside, you can see the cloaca, as well as all sorts of like orangish tones moving along the underside, and purples down here, as well as like a light tan in the center of the stomach of our dinosaur. Really, really nice looking. You also have a striping effect leading out through the course of the tail as well. And of course, you're going to see the same thing over here, except for the fact that the legs are positioned differently over here compared to what we see on the other side. The legs are just a little bit further apart. But again, the paintwork is super smooth, and the sculpt is beyond impressive. And then when it comes to these figures, of course, you've got two different color variants, and this is the one that I think I was a little more partial to straight from the start, and I can say seeing them here in person, I still have that same feeling. You've got some really nice greenish tones on this one. I love the tones of green that they've used on this, almost like minty greens in certain areas, which somehow looks really nice, but we still kind of follow along with that same sort of color scheme, just different tones of colors, where you see the browns and stuff circling around the eyes, striping down, kind of following along the snout as you lead out. You even have a little bit of a greenish tint to the tip of the beak for this one, and I think all of that paintwork is incredibly smooth, and you can just see again so much depth to the paint of these figures. Like, it looks so impressive. I also love the fact that we have the greens here for the tips of the horns, which is also a really nice touch, and even a slight kind of striping effect moving through the horns up here, which is again just so unbelievably impressive. The amount of paint you get on these Haolonggood figures, they are like painted with the quality of a paleo artist, like a high-paid paleo artist, you know, doing commission work for you. That's just how good the standard paint work from Haolonggood is. As you move up into the frill, you can see kind of the same similar, you know, color scheme going on as far as like the way that we have the patterning and stuff, but again, very different as far as the tones of color. You've got some oranges and blues and browns and stuff as you lead up here. Same sort of paintwork again for the horns that move around the frill, and again you've got that dark wash helping to highlight all of the incredible skin texture on the figure. As you move back into the body, we again still have that same sort of similar color scheme, but again, just totally different tones of color, as we've got greens, darker, and of course lighter. You've also got browns moving through that sort of stripe along. You also have that light green showing up here in the back of the neck, but you don't see that sort of metallic shine like you see on the other one, which I actually do like the fact that we don't see the metallic shine on this one, helping this one to be even more so the superior version to me. Even really nice paintwork here on the back of the frill, And again, also nice sculpt work. Just all sorts of impressive paint on this and sculpt. Overall, it is by far one of the nicest ceratopsian models that I have seen. And of course, you can see we darken to a dark green as you lead down into the feet. The nails are again painted with a black tone. As you lead back, you can even see some variations of like pinkish tones on the back of the leg, basically in the bend of the knee leading into the calf. That striping effect again leading out. You've also got more greens as you lead to the underside. You can even see again kind of like some more of those minty greens moving along the underbelly of our figure. And then if we turn it around, of course, you're going to see pretty much the same thing over here as what we had seen on the first side. But man, that has definitely got to be one of the coolest looking paint jobs for a ceratopsian that I have ever seen. As far as a size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, a little over 7 inches, heading towards 7¼ but not quite there, or just a little over 18 centimeters. And then for a height, about 3¾ inches, or around 9½ centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Utahceratops, which you can see does have a very nice size to it, just a little bit bigger than your standard kind of Attack Pack size range from Mattel, which you can see there next to the Colovosaurus. But for another comparison, there is the Schleich Diabloceratops, which you can see is a little bit smaller than our Utahceratops, as well as the Papo which you can see is pretty similar in size to the Utahceratops, with the Utahceratops being just a little bit bigger. But when it comes to a few Haolonggood ceratopsian comparisons, first of all, we have the Dinosaur, which was recently released and you can see is a little bit smaller. We've also got the Utahceratops, which is also a little bit smaller than our Utahceratops. Then we've got the gorgeous Pentaceratops, which now is a little bit bigger than our Utahceratops. We've also got our adorable little Diabloceratops, which you can see is a whole lot smaller. And then the absolute work of art, which is the Haolonggood Triceratops next to the Utahceratops, which of course you see the Triceratops being just a bit bigger. So this brand new pair of Haolonggood Utahceratops are both gorgeous, absolutely beautiful ceratopsians. Yet again, as always, Haolonggood never ceases to impress. Honestly, they make some of the best prehistoric models you are going to find anywhere, maybe the best overall, because they continue to release such impressive, high-quality figures continuously with so many different species. And this one is another species of ceratopsian you just don't see get made too often, so I was really happy to see Haolonggood producing one, and man oh man, in person they have absolutely given me one of, if not the best, Utahceratops I have ever seen. Sculpt-wise, they are beautifully done, showing off all the type of detail you would want to see, whether it be nice osteoderms, finer scale detail, skin folds, wrinkles, stretches, no matter what it is found on this figure, and it looks great. Again, this sculptor for Haolonggood is definitely one of the single best paleo artists out there creating dinosaur models. Again, they always have unbelievable detail on their releases. On top of that, we've got a really nice pose for this one, which I feel like almost has, again, that little bit of like a confrontational pose. In my opinion, it almost feels like it's like two Utahceratops kind of dueling. That's just sort of the feeling that I get when it comes to the pose of this one. And when you actually put the two kind of face to face, I feel like they perfectly portray that as well. And you've got incredibly impressive paint applications on these with tons of color, really tiny subtle additions of paintwork to these figures that you may not even notice until you really take it into a nice light and study it. The paint application of Haolonggood is, again, just on another level when it comes to the amount of paintwork and precision of that paintwork that is applied. You just don't really see sloppiness from this company, and you always, again, see the absolute most impressive paint applications. Just super high quality stuff all the time. And you see the same thing here with that green version being just, honestly, one of the single most beautiful paint applications I've seen on a ceratopsian yet. So if you are interested in picking these up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that from Lana Time Shop, which is exactly where I purchased mine. So make sure you check that link, go grab these fantastic figures, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.